Ministry works both ways. Oh, Jesus knows that, right? Paul knew that. He said that the Word of God is a double-edged sword. He said that iron sharpens iron, one hand washes the other. I mean, these are principles of Christianity, that we serve one another, and that glorifies God, and it lets people know that we are His. See, one of my jobs is to educate and to train other believers to better love other believers, other people. That's one of my jobs. Now, I wrote that much better than I said it. One of my roles is to teach people to better administer God's love. Do you love people? Do they know it? Are you sure? Because I think we should take a survey of the people we love and ask them if they're having the experience of knowing they are loved. Now, I could use this young lady here. I'm not going to say her name because we're videotaping. And I could say, do you feel like I really appreciate you coming to these events? And I need to say that. Because I've made damn sure she knows I feel that way. And that is the truth. Now, I'm not bragging, but I've successfully communicated that which I set out to do. I find people all the time that say things to me like, well, you know I love you, right? And I'm like, no. I mean, I know you like me or whatever. I know you're amused by me. I know you like telling your friends we're friends. But I don't necessarily have the experience of you actually love me or anything. No, I mean, it's very hard to say that to people. But it should be up to the recipient of said love if it's working or not. And like I said, I want to give you your best New Year's resolution. Your best New Year's resolution yet would be to get back to the basics and learn skills for letting people in your life know that you love them. Now I'm going to embarrass my daughters. My daughters know that I love them, and I know that they love me. We don't have issues of communication in my family. Never have with any of my kids. Never. We always knew exactly where we stood. But I don't know how to do that. I don't want to embarrass you. But one of them called me and said, what do you want for Christmas? And I said, I really don't want anything. No, really, what do you want? And I said, I really don't want anything. Well, then what do you want? What I want is when we're all together, I want us just to have a nice time. I want the time. I want whatever money you guys are going to spend on Christmas to go into whatever we do together. That's what I treasure most. And today we went to our favorite Chinese restaurant and nobody fought at the table. And that's how I know they love me, because nobody fought at the table. We had a perfect time, and the food was delicious, and everybody was happy. And I was sick as a dog, and one got off an airplane and was exhausted, and we still did this, and we had this time. And because we've communicated what will effectively bless you, Dad, for Christmas. And anyone who knows me knows I'm telling the truth. This is what I want, much more than I want anything material from pretty much anyone. I want your cash. I want your cash. And I want their time. Okay. People call us on our Christianity all the time. I don't know if you've noticed that the world hates us a lot right now because we're asshats. And they call us, they're like, well, that's very Christian of you, Paisey. That's not very Christian of you, Paisey. I love that. I'm like, I'm not being really Christian right now. I'm kind of getting in touch with my inner Jew. But we're being judged for our actions all the time. And I had a relatively modest hit of a song called Love Me Forever. And I wrote it when I was terminally ill in my 20s. And it's about desertion. It's about how when you need people the most, they bail on you. And I was very sick at the advent of AIDS, and everybody thought I had AIDS, and I didn't, but everybody thought I did and treated me like, I was a leper. And I wrote an entire song about it, and because I was really writing it about people with AIDS and how people really felt like everyone keeps you at an arm's distance when they think they can catch what you have, or they're going to have to like grow or mature or step out of their comfort zone to be near you, and people feel so deserted. And I've said this before, and it's gotten me in hot water. And anytime I personalize this one point at the kitchen, I usually get, a buttload of response later about it. But I've said that my daughters and I have felt deserted since my son died. That the majority of human beings in our life disappeared or changed in such a way that it'd be better if they disappeared. But the huge tsunami of promise, of love and support and fellowship at the time of our loss turned into, just a fizzle and nothing. And and I was talking about it with this person the other day, and he said, well, maybe they're not all assholes. Maybe some people are just unskilled. And I probably said, I think unskilled people are assholes. And we all know what I really think, so I can't really pretend, because we're not 10 years old anymore. I don't care if you're unskilled. You're a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit in you. Figure it out, minister to me, damn it, or I'm going to judge you like you wouldn't believe. To which he said, I'm a much nicer person than you are, Paisey. And I said, and that's why you're holding the camera and I'm doing the talking. So, but I had lunch with a minister a couple weeks ago. We met on Facebook through a fellow minister who I wish was here tonight, because if he figured out who I was talking about, he would be peeing his pants right now. He'd be like, I can't believe you're going to say this. But I had lunch with this guy, and anyone who knows me knows I show nothing but respect to other ministers. I've met Jerry Falwell in this life, and I was nothing but respectful. And, and he was the same way, I might add. But, I meet ministers, and no matter whether or not I agree with them, they deserve my respect, at least for a season. And I had a meal with this guy, and apparently he didn't know that I had lost my son. And so he goes, so you have 2 daughters, right? And I said, I do. And he said, no sons? Well, pitches it to me, I'm going to hit it right out of the park. What am I supposed to do at that point? I wasn't going to bring it up. So I just said, well, I did. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, he was killed almost 2 years ago in a tragic accident. The guy is my age, at least. Surely, past the middle age of life, we've learned something to say when people say something like that catches us off guard. My gosh, everyone I've talked to has said something like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, that must have been horrible. Oh, that would be the worst thing. Oh, I'd hate it if my kid died. Something to say. Well, he took the cake. He took the cake. Now, if he tried to take that cake, I'd kill him with a baseball bat. But he took this cake, and I kind of wanted to hit him with one. And he said, I haven't rehearsed this, and I only get one shot of mimicking this guy. I said, well, I had a son, but he was killed almost 2 years ago in a tragic accident. Oh, I can't empathize with that. I've never experienced a loss like that. I can't empathize. So anyways, so then he started talking about something else. Yeah, my feelings weren't hurt, or I didn't need anything from this man. I needed something from God to keep me from saying the first 50 things that popped into my head about that man. I was like, minister. A minister. What is a minister? Damn it. How many times have people said, wow, and you're a minister? When I've said something they didn't like. And I wanted so bad just to say it to someone once. I was like, you've got to be kidding. I can't empathize with that. He literally processed it to be about what would work for him or not, and just dismissed it and moved right on. I sat there and I went, gosh, I hope he writes a check. So this behavior, this desertion, this void, and if I thought of that, that would have been in my notes first. This void has been a running theme in my music for the past decade. I had a song called Jesus Eyes 2 because I couldn't figure out another title for it, but it has nothing to do with Jesus Eyes 1. But there's a part in the song where I say, where are my friends? Where are my family? Why have you forgotten me? And I was singing from the perspective of someone who was in a hospice dying. And I think that it's all well and good that I keep pointing out everyone's aberrant behavior, but it's really not educating much by pointing it out, apparently. It used to be, know the truth and the truth set you free, because I think Jesus said that. So if you just point something out, it should be enough, but apparently the body of Christ has become retarded, so we have to kind of spell it out. And oh my gosh, that has an email written all over it. I am not politically correct, just so you know. I purposely am not politically correct, so I don't try to be politically correct, because the more I try, the worse I'll be. I spoke on this one night here, and I upset a handful of people in the room, and they've not been back. And I'm not sorry, because my job isn't to be perfect. My job is to be real. That is a fact. I can't help it. And anyone who knows me really well knows I do not set out to be shocking, and I do not set out to be offensive. I really am that way naturally. That I'm just like everyone else. I wish everyone liked me, loved me, and accepted me, and gave me cookies, and life were easy like that. And then all this shit flies out of my mouth, and I'm like, well, there you go. There's not gonna be any cookies for me. So, but I did say that night 2 things. 1, I would never talk like that again. And 2, that I would revisit this again, and I'm revisiting it tonight. And I want to say that there was a day where you met people in church and they asked you, what can I pray for you? We had prayer circles in church, but people would write down in little memo books. They had their prayer lists. Excuse me, and they would come see you at church and they'd say, hey, Paisey, I've been praying for you about that thing. How's it going? And you'd be like, oh my gosh, it got better. And they go, cool, and check that off. Now what can I pray for you? We used to call these people prayer warriors. Notice on Facebook that people spell that wrong over and over again. They call them prayer warriors. Check your spelling, young lady. No, I forgot that you had done it once, but no, everybody does it. It's warriors, fighters, killers, people who kick ass in the spirit, and it's good to call on them. They have the best ministry on the planet. They're doing the hard work, so people like me can have fun. But we used to have these lists, and And then, you know, when email happened, we used to mail out lists and to people and say, pray for this person and do this. And people would sign up and there'd be all this interest. And then all of a sudden, Facebook happened. And it's like, well, no, because now people's problems show up all the time and I can just pray for them right then and there. I have 4,000 friends on Facebook. Every time I see something, I type prayers and love from me and hope. That counts as a prayer. How am I supposed to pray for 4,000 people effectively? I can't. I can't. I effectively send out birthday cards to 4,000 people. I effectively respond to every single email, text, comment, you know, Facebook message, snail mail, every single thing I get in my life at the time I get it. That's pretty good for a Christian, actually. Almost unheard of, I think. But the problem is that we don't have systems anymore of ministering to people. We don't. I thought when my son died, there'd be casseroles at my door. I swear I thought that. Specifically casseroles. Anyone who knows me knows, for one, it's no way in hell I'm eating mystery food. But I expected it. I expected it. People came in the next day and they bought hundreds of dollars of groceries, and we had so much food we couldn't see the counter. And that was it. And I seriously expected that to keep happening. I have an amazing list of what I expected to happen, seriously. And this gets me judged so much. Can I at least get a brownie point for being honest that I'm like this? Seriously, can someone step back and go, he's putting himself in a bad light to make a point, and he's making it at his own expense instead of pointing the finger at others. I expected a lot. As the minister, as the one who's ministered to people for 33 years, I expected a lot. Rick Warren's son committed suicide, ironically, on my son's last birthday alive. And I bet Rick Warren got a casserole. I bet he had flowers. I bet he had all kinds of stuff, you know, because he's famous and a hotshot. Can I just say Rick Warren wrote me about my son? Can I just say God bless him? Gosh, I can't say anything bad about him anymore. My song, Save One More for Jesus, came from his book, which I hated. But then he wrote me about my son, so I'll never badmouth him again. I think we need prayer lists, and I think we need people to call lists. People who need us to call them and check on them. Not because they tell us to. My gosh, I told everybody, don't bug me. Leave me alone. Do you know that leave me alone means help? I mean, I wish there's some people couldn't make it tonight, and for very good reasons. I wish they could hear that, because they are people that were on the butt end of my don't call me, don't text me, don't email me, don't Facebook me, and wherever you don't show up unannounced. Ask someone who showed up unannounced what happened to him. So seriously, you're gonna take someone in extreme grief and take their word for what's best? This is when friends become friends. This is when brethren become brethren. This is when we step up to the plate. We decide who needs calls every week, whether they want them or not. They don't have to answer their phone. One day, they're going to say, nobody reached out to me. And Jesus is going to say, oh, no, that person did. They called you over and over and over. I was in the hospital shortly after my son died, and I had surgery, and Eileen sat in my room every single day. I'd wake up with my hospital gown over my head, and there would be Eileen. I'd be like, seriously? Seriously? If anyone had asked, because I'm sorry someone's not here who did ask, I said, hell no, I don't want anybody around me. I had a tube up my nose and down my throat, sucking out shit from my stomach, and I really didn't want anyone to see me like that. The truth was, I was scared to death in that hospital room, alone. I was scared to death. And yet, Jesus sat there with me the entire time. That's the truth. Now, she had surgery, and I went every single morning. Because that's what we do. Do we like it? Not really. Not really. She wasn't much of a conversationalist. I was. That's the truth. I mean, I was. I probably said things that you could probably blackmail me with. I was so stoned. But you know what? That's what we do. That's what we do. But I said no, and she did it anyways. Because it was really, basically, she overrided my feelings. Mama knows best. But how am I supposed to know what's best for me over the last 2 years when I'm still in a fog? I'm still in a fog. How am I supposed to know what's best for me? Everybody's posting those things on Facebook about depression. You know, if you know someone who's depressed, don't judge them and understand, you know, they can't help themselves, and you know, they're doing the best they can, and if there weren't ladies in the room, so seriously, all I want to say is, okay, I have thousands of you on Facebook. Are any of you going to call me? I might be a wee bit depressed. Okay, he's making it about him again. Kills the room. If I said a sweet old lady's husband died at my church and she was horribly depressed and nobody called her, people would lean in and really listen. We just love that story. I don't know what that is. You know, and it's funny because this was going to be my big punchline, but it fits right now. Or maybe not. A sweet old lady loses their husband and doesn't get any love from their friends and family in church. And people really relate to that. I could get people to repost a story I made up like that over and over again on Facebook. But if it's about me, people say I'm stuck. People say, he just, you know, it's been 2 years, he needs to get on with his life. Sadly, I have gotten on with my life. My life just profoundly sucks. It's really noticeable on Christmas when you're missing a kid. It's really noticeable. And my gosh, unless you've experienced that, you have no idea what I'm talking about. That is a fact. You can lose anything you want in this life till you've lost your child, your son, the one you put all your dreams and hopes in, and everything you expected good to happen in your life in. You have no idea what it's like. But it's funny because I've read a lot of books. I've seen a lot of movies, but I've read a lot of literature. And a very common setup in literature is the death of a parent for a young person's coming of age story, Bambi, or the death of a child. And the writer will say, Mama never got over the death of my little brother. Dolly Parton's TV movie, which was, I'm sorry, one of the best things I've ever seen on television, who knew, dealt with the death of a child and how it devastated the family and how it devastated the parents. And the mom couldn't even look at the husband anymore because he looked just like the child she lost. And you know, books, literature, movies, TV, songs romanticize the loss of a child. And everybody goes, oh my gosh, Dolly Parton's family lost a child. It must have been so hard for them. You know what I mean? If I posted that on Facebook, everyone would be all over it. We love the romantic side of these stories, but the practical side in our lives is these people don't recover. And if they ever do recover, they sure as hell don't recover as fast as we'd like them to. And assessing someone else's choices, treatments, and recovery from illness and grief. It's just another form of judging. It's just another form of saying, you're not what I want you to be. You're not living up to my expectations. But I feel like sometimes that I made the mistake of having a debilitating tragedy in the wrong century. That I think that in another century, the world was smaller and people would have gone, that poor Paisey, he never recovered. But we took care of him the best we could, and we brought him casseroles and pies and made sure he wasn't alone on Thanksgiving or Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now I get, enjoy your Christmas posts on Facebook. Your son's spirit is with you. Remember the good times. Oh, God. My gosh. You know, some people don't get good news. Some people have dismal prognosis. Some people have dismal prognosis. Do you know that most human beings die one day? And a lot of them die from bad things. And a lot of people have things wrong with them that are not going to ever be right. They're not going to be right. People saying to me, grief is grief. It's like saying cancer is cancer. Really? Because some cancer you can burn off and go back out in the sun again. Or another cancer is going to kill you in about 3 days. And I don't mean to start the argument, but I certainly mean to finish it when it comes up, that a lot of people have really bad news in their life. And I'd like to say this, and this is one of those moments where I really wish I was the most famous Christian on the planet and not Rick Warren, because I'm going to say something so profound right now that I think it's the smartest thing I've ever heard anyone say on the loss of a child. Are you ready? You ready? I think Mary probably could have given a flying Twinkie and a rolling donut that her dead son was the savior. I don't think for 1 second Mary ever said it was worth it. Because look what he did for humanity. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. I think that's your only chair.